Robbins moves that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that House File Number 300 be recalled from the Committee on Taxes, be given its second and third reading, and be placed upon its final passage.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm rising to suspend the rules tonight and declare an urgency to pass Representative Liss-Lagarde's bill, HF 300, which fully repeals the tax on Social Security and creates a new subtraction for public pension recipients who receive pension benefits in lieu of Social Security. Members, we heard this bill in the Tax Committee today, and it has strong bipartisan support. It is co-authored by Representative Brand, Representative Wolgamont, Representative Stevenson, Representative Norris, Representative Curran, Representative Clardy, Representative Hicks, Representative Hewitt, Representative Cleavorn, Representative Hill, Representative Moeller, and Representative Newton. There is broad bipartisan support to repeal the tax on Social Security and also create this new subtraction for people who get their pension benefits. That list includes people who get the basic plan for the State Patrol retirement plan, the Legislators' Retirement Fund, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, the Public Employee Retirement Association General Plan, the Minneapolis Employees Retirement Fund, the Para-Police and Fire Plans, Teacher Retirement Association, St. Paul Teachers Retirement Fund, members of a federal pension who are ineligible for Social Security, and members of a pension plan administered by another state. Members, we heard from police officers, firefighters, seniors, teachers, all throughout the tax committee today about how important getting this done is for them. And I know it has strong bipartisan support. I know we're tired, so this shouldn't take too long, and I urge members to suspend the rules and get this done this evening.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Robbins. So we did, in fact, hear this bill today in Tax Committee, along with a bill from Representative Hansen that has that sets an $80,000 threshold under which nobody making under that amount would pay any money on their Social Security taxes or any tax on their Social Security benefits. And so what that approach does is it actually targets support to those people who are struggling, because there are people who are struggling. There are seniors who are getting Social Security benefits who are having a hard time making ends meet, and we have the ability to help them out this year. What we need to proceed with extreme caution on, though, is an approach that spends $1.2 billion in this biennium, 1.5 in the next biennium, and does not do anything to help the 58% of seniors who currently pay $0 on their Social Security benefits because they're actually low-income people. That $1.2 billion, $1.5 billion, that if we were to put that in place right now, would do absolutely nothing to help the lowest income seniors. In fact, this would disproportionately go to those top earning seniors. And so what we have to do, and what we are endeavoring to do in the Tax Committee, is to hear different approaches to this issue that is of high importance to a lot of us. However, it's not accurate to say that every Democrat ran on this issue. It's not accurate to say that. It is accurate to say that most Democrats ran on funding education. We ran on helping out our overburdened child care system, helping out the providers, helping parents have access to high quality early education options for their children. We ran on ensuring that we have investments in housing so that people can have shelter. We ran on investing in the people who need help the most and not spending billions of dollars for those who are among the most fortunate of seniors in our state. So, I want us to think a little bit about those seniors who are now making, $150,000, $200,000 a year in retirement. What were the economic conditions like when they were coming up? How much did a house cost in our country? What was the average cost of a house in the state of Minnesota in the 1980s versus what it is today? What was the cost of childcare? What was the cost of higher education? We have families in all of our communities right now who are having real, genuine trouble making ends meet. A senior who's making 6 figures in retirement, not while they're working, not while they're supporting a family, not while they're raising kids, not while they're trying to pay their house off, but after they're done with their working years, seniors who are making 6 figures in retirement don't need a couple $1,000 tax break. And it's interesting because we've heard a couple times, you know, in committee and I've read in the media people saying, oh, well, you know, it's not like about the money, it's about the message that it sends. But what we are doing, if we're saying we're going to spend $1.2 billion this biennium, $1.5 billion the next biennium, $2 billion in just a couple biennia down the road, we have to ask ourselves, well, what are we giving up? What are we giving up? Is it our investment in school kids? Is it our investment in early childhood? Is it our investment in housing? Is it our investment in climate? Is it our investment in long-term care and nursing homes where there are real economic needs? So, you know, I hope that members will not support this. There is not an urgency around this to do this today. We have an urgency to respond to the many needs of our community members. There is an urgency to respond to everybody who is economically suffering. Not just seniors, but families and children and small business owners and people all in all stages of life. But we are living in, you know, we have trade-offs to make with all of these financial decisions. And we're going to be going through that process over the next several weeks. And this bill has had, you know, we gave it a hearing today, and we will be considering it as we're going along. But it's like there's an entire budget that we have to figure out how to balance. And, you know, I guess I just for one feel really, really passionate about helping out people who need help, about helping out people who are having economic trouble, who are having trouble making ends meet. And there's a lot of those people out there. But the highest income seniors are just not among them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Clay, Representative Joy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I heard this bill in taxes today too, and I was excited. It was great when Representative Listegard brought this forward to eliminate Social Security. This is what we've all talked about. With him, there's 12 other people, Democrats on this bill. So I'm going to tell you right now, they campaigned on that. We campaigned on that. So we just heard testimony that we're trying to help people and do things. Well, I think we've seen this 10 weeks, we haven't helped a lot of people. We haven't done a lot. I haven't seen personal income tax reduced. I haven't seen property tax reduced. I've seen expenses added. I've seen the governor's budget add expenses. I've seen tax increase, but I haven't seen reduction. So I think this is a great time to do this, and I think it's a great bill. And I appreciate Representative Listegard for bringing this forward. This is a good bill. We can all push green on this. We know this is good. We all campaign on it. We can argue all day long who it cuts for and who it doesn't. That doesn't matter. If you guys feel passionate about other stuff, then let's get the legislation here. What we're doing in other legislation isn't helping. We keep talking about, well, we got to help these people. You're not doing nothing. We're not seeing anything come forward. It's constantly laying over bills or bring them to the floor if you want to change things. We're not seeing it. I think this is a great bill. I think this 300 is great, and I appreciate Representative Listegard for bringing it forward. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Morrison, Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Great opportunity for us tonight. Let's do it. Let's just deliver for the people of Minnesota. Let's deliver for our seniors. Let's deliver so that we can make Minnesota competitive. A great place to live, work, play, raise a family. This is our opportunity. Let's do it together. There's so much bipartisan support for that. In fact, I would like to ask, would Representative Hanson J. yield to a question?
She will yield. Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Representative Hanson. Could you share with us what you heard from campaigning to the people in Burnsville and Savage about eliminating the tax on Social Security?
Sure, I'd love to. I live in the poorest precinct in Burnsville. The people in Burnsville and a lot of Savage asked me to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. I campaigned on the politics of care and having a responsible government. And what that looks like in my community is listening to the needs of the people who need our help the most. And when I ask the questions, do you think the richest among us need a tax cut? The answer was overwhelmingly no.
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have a very broad definition in this chamber tonight about what rich is, apparently. And what I think is important to recognize is there are people all across our state who need our help, seniors in need, and a way for us to make another historic win tonight where we can all celebrate. This entire chamber can celebrate. And the truth of the matter is that folks across this room campaigned upon eliminating the tax on Social Security income. And as we look ahead to the next couple weeks, this is really important to do right now so that we know how much more money we have left in the state budget. But this should be our top priority because it was the top priority of each and every one of us in this last election, and especially Representative Hanson. Happen to know I've spoken to a few people in your district, and my understanding is you campaigned right to the senior living communities and told them you would deliver on this. So I want to help you deliver tonight. And so
Representative Schultz, the issue before the House is the motion on the suspension of the rules, and the Masons does not allow us to bring personalities into dispute. So you need to confine your remarks to the substance of the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let's do it. Let's deliver. Let's deliver upon eliminating the tax on Social Security, especially when we look at how the governor has proposed spending $13.5 billion. $13.5 billion. That's what this governor has proposed in his budget. So we talk about responsible spending. Let's first prioritize our seniors in this state. We've heard from Chair Gomez. We have the opportunity to do it. And guess what? There will be a lot more money left over. Let's do it. Let's just deliver for the people of Minnesota.
The member from Olmsted, Representative Quam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I wasn't going to talk until the chair of the Tax Committee started touching on most of our budget, a lot of areas, and it got me thinking that, you know, if we're going to talk about that, the two lowest per pupil school districts funded are in my district. We also have the lowest tax capacity. Well, we're below the state average in tax capacity. So those are poor districts with funding, poor districts with, you know, the local tax capacity. One of them in the last few years had 100% graduation, 3 years. Has, in the last testing for math proficiency, scored twice what Rochester did. And Rochester's a good school district. So being at the bottom funding, and they're doing this, maybe it's not just about money, it's how we appropriate the money, how we allow the freedom for local districts to do. So it's not just about money with everything that she touched on. And I could talk 8-10 hours touching all the spots, but I won't. I'll get back to the actual subject, which are the seniors. And you know the amount of benefits you get in Social Security because it's taken out of their paychecks. And if they take more out of your paycheck, you get more when you retire. So the money is because of the money taken out of their paychecks. They worked for it. It's not just magic money that is falling from the sky. It's directly relational to their work their entire lives. And most states don't tax it. They realize they earned it. It was forced that they put it away in Social Security to get money to retire on. That was why we started it, right? Because we had hard times and we thought, how can we help people prepare for retirement? But if you don't care that most states don't, care about our communities where these seniors volunteer, they're mentors for businesses, for organizations. They've got the free time to make a difference in their community. And if we tax and other states don't, they might not just be snowbirds, they might just move permanently. And then they're not taxed, and they're not here. And our communities suffer when we lose that heritage, that mentoring, and the volunteers. I talk to many people in my district, they're retired, and what are they doing? They're going out and driving people to medical appointments. They are dropping off meals. They're helping out at schools. They're helping fill the gap that our worker shortage has caused in many of our communities. I don't want to have more of our seniors leave the state. I don't want to be an outlier that drives them away. So I want to suspend the rules, and we're talking about a bill chief authored by the majority with many, many members in the majority co-authoring it. So I'm not hearing any justification that this is a partisan thing. In fact, this is one of the few bipartisan things we can do tonight, because we already did a wonderful bipartisan thing in the beginning, right? We came together. We over here see a bill carried by the majority, and we want to actually bring it down and pass it. I just hope that you vote to allow us to do that. Thank you.
The member for Anoka, Representative West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And we have $20 billion right now. I can't think of a single tax better to cut than our income tax on Social Security. And you say, oh, well, we don't want to help seniors who have actually saved for their retirement. And that is just ridiculous, because when you're a senior, you have expenses that you wouldn't believe, and you're like, oh, Representative West, how do you know this? Well, I talked to my voters. I was at so many events. I was at the North Metro Chamber of Commerce. I was at these events where I heard Democrat after Democrat say that they supported eliminating Social Security income tax in the state of Minnesota. And I was skeptical then, but I didn't want to be skeptical because I am maybe naive, but I always assume like the word is the only thing you have. So when these members say it, it's, well, we should follow through. And even though we've exempted a lot from Social Security income tax, we have, and we should exempt more. And you say, well, maybe they have enough money because they were wise enough, they were fortunate enough to properly plan for their retirement. But the unexpected costs you have when you're that age, what, do you slip and fall on the ice and crack your skull? Do you have to hire a home health care aide to help you go to the bathroom? These are expensive. These are expenses that are catastrophically large, even if you make what we consider a good income. And eliminating the tax on Social Security will help seniors afford these things because it is only getting more expensive. With inflation, with prescription drug prices and health insurance, even with Medicare, there's a reason there's a supplemental plan for insurance on Medicare. This is expensive for everyone. And when so many campaigned on this from both sides of the aisle, all we're asking is that you do what you said you were going to do. And I understand many of you didn't campaign on that, as the chair said. But the districts that were won by closer margins, I guarantee you they all did. And if we can't agree on this simple tax cut, what, are we not going to cut any taxes this entire session? Even with a $20 billion surplus, that's over double the largest surplus we've ever had in this state. This should be easy, and we're trying to make it easy for you. We've already spent over $1.5 billion as a body. The majority's already put forward bills that have been passed by this body that have spent well over $1.5 billion, which, as the chair mentioned, is how expensive this bill would be. And there is no reason for a lot of seniors to live here, and this is just another one of those reasons. Well, one, as I already mentioned, you can slip and fall on the ice at any time. Two, I don't know if you've been here, but it's very, 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 very cold. If we add this tax on here, which we already have high taxes across the board, it just doesn't make any sense. My parents just sold their house, and they're temporarily living in Arizona. Well, at least it was temporary. But now looking at the direction we're going, it's hard to justify to somebody who has the ability to live somewhere else where they aren't soaked for every dollar they ever have earned, to come back here and continue their life. I've heard this from so many people that say, there's 3 reasons to live in Minnesota: family, family, and family. And we have to change that, because we have out-migration in Minnesota right now. We lost over 19,000 people. More people moved out than moved here. And that is being driven by the elderly. So why would we add another reason for them not to stay here? I understand you don't want to give a tax cut to somebody who saved for their retirement. But as I said, they have massive expenses. That money doesn't go nearly as far as you think it does. So I urge you, because many of you promised that you would cut taxes on Social Security. You would eliminate taxes on Social Security for Minnesota seniors. I was there and heard you say it. So please, join us. This should be an easy bipartisan vote that we can eliminate state income tax on Social Security once and for all.
The member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. You know, I'm really excited. Thank you, Representative Robbins, for bringing this forward. Thank you, Representative Listlegard, for this bill. I'm excited to be able to support House File 300 tonight. I'm excited because I had a constituent actually come down to St. Paul this week and tell me specifically, he's a retired corrections officer. He told me that he wants us to cut Social Security tax to eliminate it, and that he wants us to cut the tax on his pensions. And so I'm very excited to be able to support House File 300 tonight, and I appreciate Representative Robbins, your motion, for giving us that opportunity. I'm also really excited, Representative Robbins, that we're helping a lot of members here keep their campaign promises. This is a really, really good opportunity to keep some campaign promises. Like Representative West, I was at the Metro North Chamber session wrap-up in June of last year, in which there was unanimous support among Anoka County legislators for eliminating the Social Security tax. And that's reflected on this bill. Many members, fellow members of my Anoka County delegation are on this bill. And if there's one thing that this debate tonight has made clear, it's that going through the committee process in the tax committee, those fellow members of the Anoka County delegation are not going to be able to keep their campaign promise. They're not going to be able to keep their campaign promise. That was made very, very clear by the tax chair tonight. So, Representative Robbins, thank you for giving some members of this body maybe the only chance they're going to get to keep their campaign promise. So if you made the
Point
promise...
of order, Madam Speaker.
Representative Long.
Mason's 124, motives of a member for voting on a particular matter are not the subject of debate.
Representative Niska, Mason's section 124 has two different paragraphs that apply to the discussion tonight. One is paragraph 1, which indicates in debate, a member must confine remarks to the question before the House and avoid personality. In paragraph 3, it is not the person, but the measure that is the subject of debate, and it is not allowable to arraign the motives of a member, but the nature or consequences of a measure may be discussed in strong terms. Please confine your remarks to the confines permitted by Mason's section 124. Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'm directly speaking to the nature and consequences of the action that's before us, which is the motion to suspend the rules so that we can take up House File 300, which I think it's very clear is the only vehicle possible for some members of this body to keep the word to their constituents they made, which I think is important.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Representative Niska, you're out of order. The member from Washington, Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also am on the tax committee, and I was very happy that we heard this today amongst, and it's been halfway through, but I'm glad we got it before first deadline. So thank you for that, Madam Chair. I want to speak in favor of the motion also. We have structural surplus, not just the excess cash, but a structural surplus even after inflation of over $5 billion. That doesn't count the 12 or 15 billion in excess cash that's one-time money that can be spent on or given back, as Governor Walz and as many of us have proposed. But we have $5 billion structurally. The cost of this bill, listeners, is less than a third of that. So less than a third of the structural surplus would be the full Social Security tax cut and the cut on those that have those basic pensions from years ago where they weren't paying into Social Security. Instead, they were paying for essentially a double pension. This is something that we all promised to do, I know on our side, and a significant chunk of the side of my colleagues to the left promised to do. It should have been the #1 bill that was passed out of this body. I understand the tax chair's arguments that we have other things that we also need to balance, but there's a lot of money. And again, this is 1/3 of that, 1/3 only. So I would urge us all to take this up, to suspend the rules, and to take a vote on something we should have done on January 3rd. Thank you.
The member from Cass, Representative Knudsen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, there is no reason why we wait any longer to provide our seniors the relief they need. So many of our seniors live off of this money. And with the rising cost of inflation, the rising cost of utilities, they can't do it. We've all gotten emails. I know you guys are getting emails constantly because now your Democratic constituents are emailing me, begging me to get you to do this. The time is now. There's no reason to wait. Our seniors need this relief. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Robbins.
The member from Itasca, Representative Igo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The reason I'm going to rise to speak on this tonight, and a lot of my colleagues on this side of the aisle are doing a great job about talking why this is so important. But I heard the chair talk about how we need to take our time and make sure and go through bills. And I just could not help standing up to talk about how hypocritical that is when we passed House File 7, the blackout bill, in less than 3 weeks without a fiscal note. We have no idea what that was going to mean for the rest of our state for moving forward, funding-wise, and what that would mean for our budgets. But we know exactly what this is going to mean, and we can talk about this today. It's very fitting that this is coming up today because just a few hours ago, I had a meeting with the Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging. And that group was talking to me about one thing, and they said, Representative Igo, can we get that tax on Social Security removed? And they said it almost with tears in their eyes. And I ask you, members of this body, when you go home to your districts, you need to be very aware and looking. Because when I see it at the grocery store. When I see the elderly couple huddling around their list, wondering if they're going to be able to afford their groceries, it should break all of our hearts. And we have a way to help them right now. This group is saying they need it now more than ever. There's aging seniors in my district who are putting off visiting their grandkids an hour and a half away because they can't afford the gas. So what's one way we can get back to them and help them right now? Removing this tax that everyone has been talking about for over a year. This is a bipartisan effort. We can do this together. So Representative Robbins, I appreciate her for bringing this urgency today. Because my passion, my heart right now is for all my seniors up on the Iron Range in northern Minnesota. Because they're watching and they're asking and they need this help now more than ever. And we can give that to them today. We spent the last 80 years relying on the greatest generation. Now it's time for us to help and support them. And let's support all of our seniors in the state of Minnesota. Thank you.
The member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Oftentimes you'll hear people who will stand up and say, I wasn't planning on talking about this tonight. I waited all night to talk about this. I'll be at my uncle's funeral tomorrow morning, and that's how important this topic is to me, that I'm going to drive home in a snowstorm tonight because I wanted to speak again on this topic. August 14th, 1935. That's a date that Social Security was adopted and put into law in this country. What very few people remember and know was that before August 14th, 1935, cities, counties, local units of government, to try to entice people to get involved in law enforcement and firefighting services, offered pensions to people to put their lives on the line for people like you, people like me, and people like who are residents in the state of Minnesota. On August 14th, 1935, when Social Security came into play, those individuals, law enforcement, firefighters, were already in a pension plan. In other words, they were in a plan before Social Security ever existed. They get no benefit whatsoever from Social Security relief that many on my side of the aisle have been talking about. In this bill is relief, an income subtraction for police and fire, and what we call basic pensionees in the state of Minnesota. Because you know what, we're also paying a certain group of teachers pensions before August 14th of 1935 to educate our children. And the years I've spent in this chamber and in this legislature working for this body to help with our pensions, the last 2 years have been extremely difficult. Rampant inflation and limited COLA increases for our retirees. Our retirees get 1% COLA increases. 1% per year. Inflation is at 8%, 9%. All folks are asking for is a little help from their state legislature. And it's really important to me that those police officers, whether they be in your city, your county, or the state troopers, the men and women who you will see when you walk out this door to your left and to your right tonight, are also in that same boat. The people who are here to make sure that there's law and order and that you and I and everyone who's in this facility is safe. What we owe these men and women is a little respect and a little courtesy. Let's bring this bill up tonight and let's take care of our seniors. Let's take care of our law enforcement. Let's take care of our firefighters. And I will guarantee you tonight, as I head north to the St. Cloud area, I will see more than one set of lights of state troopers who are assisting a motorist or coming up on an accident, because I see it every Thursday night when I go home. And if you talk to somebody who's been in the state patrol, they will tell you they're lucky if they get hit one time while making a pavement stop and spending time in rehabilitation because of those injuries. Some of them don't even get a chance to come back to work. They made a decision to help you and to help me. And if that's not enough, if you retire right now as a police officer in the state of Minnesota under PERA, under the police and fire plan, that 1% COLA that I was talking to you about, you don't even get that until 3 years after you retire and begin drawing benefits. This isn't the situation where we're necessarily helping the rich. We are helping the people that help us. And I just thought it was pretty important tonight that we hear that part of the conversation. Because everybody's talking about, the Social Security, the Social Security. An income subtraction for these individuals who are not eligible for Social Security, who only have one source of income. They deserve some help as well. They deserve some respect. And I'm going to be voting yes tonight on this urgency to be able to help these men and women. And again, those men and women that I will thank again tonight when I walk out of this chamber for the work that they do. I encourage each and every one of you to join with me on that. Thank you, members. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Wright, Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. I really appreciate the candidness from Chair Gomez tonight in laying out what the majority position is on this issue. That's something that has been coming into focus in recent weeks, as we've heard statements from Governor Walz and others in the governing majority. And I think the exasperation, if it's fair to characterize it that way, that I heard in Chair Gomez's voice when she clarified that not all of you campaigned on a Social Security tax cut or Social Security tax repeal, full repeal. To the extent that that was something that was a misperception on our part, I assure you we're not the only ones. I assure you. I assure you there's Minnesotans everywhere throughout this state who had the same misconception that we apparently had, which is that as a party, you wanted to repeal the Social Security tax. And I also appreciate the candid nature of Chair Gomez's remarks because it really brings into focus for Minnesotans' minds the reality of what is meant when the majority talks about the rich. Because that little piece of rhetoric, the rich, has tremendous utility in directing attention to some imagined figure that isn't you. None of us think of ourselves as rich. Well, maybe Greg Davids does, I don't know. None of us thinks of ourselves as rich. But I think when we hear the term rich used in the political discourse, what comes to mind is something like rich Uncle Pennybags. I had to Google that. That's apparently the name of the Monopoly man, the guy on the board with the top hat and the smile who runs around. Or Daddy Warbucks from Annie, A guy with a huge mansion and a bunch of servants. I think that's what we think of. That's what comes to mind when we use the word rich. But Minnesotans, guess what? If you have a tax that you're paying on Social Security, you're regarded as rich, according to the majority. That's what's meant. If you're paying a tax on your Social Security, according to the comments made tonight by the tax chair, you don't need your money back. And I just think that the idea that we're going to sit here as arbiters of what people need to the degree that we're going to deny them what they're owed is awfully telling. It's remarkable. You know, there's an honest way to do this. I know there's all sorts of things you want to spend money on, investments, you call it. Okay, fine. Then be honest about it. Repeal the Social Security tax, and then raise taxes. Itemize it so that people know what's going on, so that people understand your intention. That you want their money because you think, you say, not just think, say, they don't need it. But it's such an interesting concept, need, and we hear it every day. I'm about to make the same argument that I've already made twice before today in committee, because this is a persistent theme throughout the work that the majority is doing. Time and time again, every day, all day long, we hear testifiers telling us about their need. It's hard to raise children. It's tough to keep the balls in the air as a young family. Is that a new phenomenon? Did that just start in 2020, 2015, 2000, 1980? I'm pretty sure it's always been tough to be a young family. I'm pretty sure it's always been tough to keep things together, to provide for yourself, to provide for those you love. And these people, they did it. They completed their mission. And they didn't look to somebody else to provide it for them. It didn't even occur to them. It didn't even pop into their head that they should turn to somebody else and ask them to provide for their needs. No. They took a look at their situation. They inventoried their resources. They aspired to achieve. They put their nose to the grindstone, and they made it work. And they trusted in the promises that were made to them. Promises that assured them that that work would pay off, that if they saved, if they were responsible, if they were self-reliant, that it would pay off in the end. And instead, what we're telling them now is, you know what? We've got a new way of doing things. It's different than when you were growing up. Nowadays, we're saying, if you've done the right thing and therefore have more, we're going to come along and decide arbitrarily after all these years, after your entire life, we're just going to decide that you don't need what you've earned. You don't need it. And there's these other people who are just getting started. They do need it. So, yoink. It's not yours anymore. But here's look, even if that doesn't convince you, I don't have to convince you tonight. I'm not going to convince you tonight, all right? I know that. But you're going to be faced with this reality. We know it. It's in the numbers. You look at the state economic forecast.
Members, please take your conversations off of the House floor.
Thank you,
Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You look at the state economic forecast, and what it shows is that what we can anticipate in terms of state revenue, what we can anticipate in terms of money coming in to these state coffers is going to remain relatively flat. And we're in a rush this session to spend the entirety of a 17.5, 19, 20 billion, who knows, number surplus that we keep changing how we calculate it. We're going to spend all of that, and we're going to raise your taxes, and we're not going to give you your Social Security tax repeal. And we're going to invest. We're going to take that money and we're going to invest it in all these new wonderful programs that are going to provide for everybody's need. The problem is, you know, our grandparents and great-grandparents, the folks who didn't even occur to them to ask somebody else to help them, they have choices. That's how they got to where they're at, is by exercising those choices, by anticipating their needs, and by taking the action in order to provide for them. And what's going to end up happening is that the folks, because, you know, it's really easy to be generous with other people's money. It's really easy to say you're going to invest as if it's yours to invest. But when folks stop producing because they don't have any incentive to, because they know you're going to take it all away from them anyway eventually, they know that the better they do. Right now, under the way things were in previous generations, the incentive was, if I work harder, I'll get more. Now, the promise is, if I work harder and earn more, it's going to be taken from me, so I best not work. And we're seeing that. That's also revealed in the state economic forecast. A 6+% reduction in discretionary spending, an increase in money charged to credit cards, money taken out on credit. People, as it turns out, Minnesotans, and I owe this point to Representative Garofalo, Minnesotans are living much the same way that we're governing, as it turns out. So I guess we're going to see how it turns out. I guess we're going to see where it all leads. It's not going to be to a positive place. And so, again, tonight, this isn't, I never thought that Representative Niska would get called out of order before I would, but the point he was trying to make, notwithstanding, this really shouldn't be political, because it's not. This is about basic morality and responsibility. And I know you think you're being responsible by investing in the way that you think you are. But that's not what responsibility looks like. What responsibility looks like is these people who you say don't need the money that they spent a lifetime earning. That's what responsibility looks like. Taking care of yourself, taking care of yours. Preparing for the future, looking ahead and planning what's down the road, adjusting the steering wheel, stopping for gas, making decisions that are smart, rational, forward-thinking. That's being responsible, not taking other people's money to redistribute it because you judge, as the deity you have appointed yourself to be, that these people don't need it and these people do. That is not responsibility. Please support this urgency. Thank you.
The member from Stearns, Representative Perryman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Hudson, you made me think a lot about, 2 years or maybe a year ago, the word essential. And so I'm going to think about essential, because what you said leads me that we're saying that not everyone's essential. We're going to pick and choose and develop metrics, who gets Social Security relieved or who doesn't. And we did that once before. We did it to businesses about non-essential. So I'm coming back to this now about the elderly being essential. Everyone's essential in Minnesota. We are people first, and then we do jobs to earn the Social Security that we earned and already paid tax on once, and now we're going to pay it again. So who's essential here? And I'm going to use a story about essential. I sell batteries. It's an essential need and product, right? So I was allowed to be open during COVID. What came through my door were all ages, but especially the elderly people, because they couldn't go places. They couldn't go visit their kids. They couldn't take little side trips because of COVID. There's all the lockdown. Okay, now we move to now, and the cost of living on our seniors is tremendous, and it's a burden to them. So we're saying now, the elderly are coming in, they need a car battery, right? And you know why they scrimp and save to buy a car battery, but you know what? It's only to go to the grocery store. They tell me they can't afford gas to get to go see their family, which might be 3 hours away. We are taking away enjoyment of the elderly that have decided to retire after hard work and live on a fixed income, and they now are being called, I'm going to say non-essential, because we're talking about their livelihoods and what we can help them with. Please consider this Social Security elimination tax tonight. Fully. I'm doing it for all of you guys back home. I'm telling you, let's do it tonight. Let's not wait. And let's get this done for people that raised us, that people started business a long time ago and handed it down to us. They worked hard, and they deserve all their Social Security money back. So they are essential. We're all essential. Let's do this one-time sweep that'll benefit all of Minnesotans. Thank you.
The member from Stearns, the Minority Leader, Representative Demuth.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this obviously is an issue that we all feel very passionate about. It's something that you've heard from our side before. Thank you, Representative Robbins, for being willing to bring a motion forward to suspend the rules. When I became aware that House File 300 was being heard in committee today, that was a promise that we heard a couple of weeks ago on the House floor from the tax chair that we would have, that bill would be heard, Representative Lislagard's bill. But ending the tax on Social Security, while I understand from what I've learned tonight on this floor that not all DFLers supported that while they were campaigning, I can guarantee you that all Republicans did support that and promise to our constituents and the voters that that would be a priority, something that we wanted to have done, something that we continue to hear from the state, all around the state, from our seniors that say, why can't you just get this done? So Representative Lislagard, thank you for making this your #1 priority, bringing this bill forward and having it heard today. We know that there are at least 6 other authors, DFL authors on that bill. I will not read the comments that I have here, quotes that I have supporting that. But members, this is something that we can do. We can suspend the rules, declare that urgency, bring up the bill that has already had a hearing, take a vote on it, and then end before midnight. I would encourage you to support the Robbins motion.
The member from Hennepin, the maker of the motion, Representative Robbins.
Thank you, members. I appreciate the discussion tonight, and I really do hope we will have strong bipartisan support to suspend the rules and get a bipartisan vote to eliminate the tax on Social Security and create this new subtraction for public pension recipients who don't get Social Security. Representative Lislagard, I'm not sure where you're sitting this year, but wherever you are, thank you for, thank you. Thank you for bringing this bill. I had a bill that just did the repeal on Social Security, HF 136, which did not receive a hearing. So I was very excited when your bill received a hearing and also is better than my bill. I did not have the pension piece in my bill, and this is a better bill than the one I was bringing forward. And so I really appreciate your work on this, and I appreciate the other 12 or 11 Democrat co-authors on this bill, and I hope that all of you who authored or co-authored this bill will vote with us tonight to suspend the rules and get this passed. This is a bipartisan issue, and we can get this done. Thank you, members.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Roll call.
Those opposed, please say no. The motion does not prevail.